Welcome to Hope for Recovery, a 12-step workshop, sponsored by the Saturday Serenity Meeting of Eating Disorders Anonymous, which is a fellowship of people who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they might solve their common problems and help others to recover from their eating disorders. Information about EDA can be found at 4eda.org, the number 4eda.org. Handouts for all sessions of this workshop can be found at edahopeforrecovery.com. And now, here's today's workshop. Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 1 of our 14-week Hope for Recovery workshop. Today, we are covering step 1. My name is Ed. I'm a member of the Hope for Recovery Workshop Committee. I live in St. Augustine, Florida, and I'm recovering from an eating disorder. If you would like to, please join me for a moment of silence while I take a deep breath. One more. If you need to contact us for any reason, please use our email address, workshopeda@gmail.com. The opinions expressed today are those of the person speaking and do not necessarily represent EDA as a whole. This workshop is being recorded to create an audio version, so if you choose to share, your voice may be heard on the recording. Only those who volunteer to speak or share will be called on. To prevent distraction, the chat feature is disabled until 10 minutes before the end of the workshop. We typically have a lively after-meeting gathering everyone's invited to, which will not be recorded. We do believe this workshop will enrich your recovery. It's not intended to replace the experience of working the steps with or having a relationship with an EDA sponsor. For today's session, you will have received several emails, one on Friday and a couple over the weekend. This was because we had some late arrivals and we wanted to make sure they had all of the information. Moving forward, you will receive one email on Friday. We've prepared the handouts for each of the 14 sessions. We emailed the handout for the upcoming workshop to all registered participants each Friday. If you don't receive your handout, or if you are listening to the recording of this workshop, you can find all our materials at edahopeforrecovery.com. As of today, the handout for step 1 and the welcome letter are located there. Now I will go over the workshop guidelines. Have your EDA Big Book with you. We will use it often. Have your camera on if possible, unless you're moving around or doing anything which could be distracting. Try to attend all workshop sessions and be on time, but do attend even if you're running late. Maintain the anonymity and privacy of members of this workshop by not sharing anything you hear or see here unless it's about yourself. Please be careful when sharing to not mention numbers or specific foods and food plans. Do the homework to the best of your ability. Try not to multitask. Be gentle with yourself. Remember that we do our best and no one does it perfectly. I would like to introduce our workshop chair, Regina.
Well, thank you, Ed, and you'll be seeing a lot of Ed during the workshop, and I hope you will enjoy getting to know him. He is a wonderful man and takes lots of teasing good-naturedly about his name. My name is Regina. I'm the chairperson of the Hope for Recovery Workshop Committee. I live in San Diego, and I am a grateful recovered member of Eating Disorders Anonymous. Are there any questions at this time?
Yes, I did. I wanted to ask, where do I get this EDA Big Book from?
Most people get it from Amazon, something like Amazon, an online bookseller. Audrey.
Thank you very, very much, Regina, and everybody who's working behind the scenes. My question is, how do I go about, if I want to make a contribution, which is suggested, how do I go about doing that?
On the EDA website, there is a support tab. All the contributions will go to EDA rather than the workshop.
Okay, thank you.
Maureen H.
I got a book, but it's tiny. Are they all small?
Yes.
Okay.
Kim R.
I got mine from Amazon on my Kindle, so I can use it on my tablet too, so it makes it bigger to read.
Go ahead, Bev.
Hi, I'm Bev, and I'm recovering from an eating disorder. Thank you, Regina. I was wondering if there is a phone list. On other meetings, there
Yeah.
have been a phone list where you can contact people.
Yeah, great question. No, we don't have a phone list, but when you're in your small groups or at the end of the meeting, there's lots of opportunity for exchanging phone numbers. Thank you.
Oh, I just wanted to thank you so much also for this group. And I did get the book from Amazon and I did it did come in within a day, which was great. And it just shocked me that it was so small that I laughed because it's called The Big Book. But anyway, I just wanted to say that so that they're pretty quick on that. So
Sense of humor is priceless. Thanks, Nancy.
I know. I looked at it, I'm like, wait a minute, this is supposed to be a big book. Did I get the wrong one? Thank you.
This first workshop is going to answer lots of questions, and there'll be more time for questions later on. It's now my pleasure to introduce our leader for today, Isabel. Go ahead, Isabel.
Thanks so much, Regina. Hi, everyone. My name is Isabel. I live in Washington, D.C., and I'm in recovery from an eating disorder. Today, we're going to be focusing on step 1, but first, let's cover some important basic concepts of the Eating Disorders Anonymous program. And we'll begin with some commonly asked questions. So the first question being, is there a food plan in EDA? No, there are no food plans in EDA. EDA endorses sound nutrition and discourages any form of rigidity around food. Balance and not abstinence is our goal. We encourage our members to work with qualified professionals, such as registered dietitians and therapists who are trained in eating disorders. And that's from the brochure, Frequently Asked Questions. Good brochure. Next, I've asked Louise to read the next 3 slides, and then Donna to read the following 3, which pertain to the question, what distinguishes EDA from other 12-step programs?
Thank you, Isabel. My name is Louise. I'm in recovery from an eating disorder in British Columbia, Canada. A focus on balance, not abstinence. EDA's focus on balance and perspective, rather than abstinence, distinguishes it from most other 12-step fellowships. EDA fully embraces the 12-step concept that recovery is a process, not an event. When recovery entails dealing with food, something we need almost as much as we need air and water, any rigid approach to food-related behaviors, including thinking about food as an addiction, simply did not work for us. We think our approach is effective because it focuses our attention on changes that lead to long-term success. And that's from the EDA Big Book, page 11, XI in Roman numerals. Freedom from eating disorder symptoms is seen as a product of working the steps and not a necessary condition for beginning or continuing them. In EDA, a return of eating disorder symptoms is understood to be an opportunity for growth if dealt with openly and honestly. We would like to assure all readers that it is completely normal for someone with an eating disorder to continue to engage in old patterns of thought and behavior until they have, through repeated and determined practice, learned to rely more heavily on a new foundation created through working the 12 steps. This is also from the EDA Big Book, page 111. Full recovery. With time and practice, we find we react sanely and normally when old patterns of thought come up. This rich, full recovery is not an overnight matter. Like happiness, it is a byproduct of thinking and doing the right things, including focusing on and reinforcing the positives, recognizing what we are doing right and celebrating it, trusting the process, working the steps, and using the tools, even if it takes time, does lead to changes in thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And that's from the brochure, Fully Recovered. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Louise. And next, I've asked Donna to read the following 3 slides.
Thank you. My name is Donna. I'm recovering from an eating disorder. I live near Atlanta, Georgia. A focus on feelings, not food. EDA literature repeatedly emphasizes that recovery is about feelings, not food. We discovered our eating disordered behaviors and obsessions were motivated by powerful feelings and thoughts. Through using the tools of our program, such as meetings, sponsorship, literature, service, and step work, we develop healthier responses to these thoughts and feelings. Higher purpose. Like other 12-step programs, EDA is spiritually based. However, in addition to or instead of a higher power, EDA embraces the idea of serving a purpose greater than ourselves. This provides atheists and agnostics a culture of acceptance and opportunity to find full recovery through working the steps from a slightly different perspective, relying on ideas of significance beyond ourselves to provide meaning, perspective, and opportunities to be of service reliably produces good results. Milestones. In keeping with EDA's focus on balance, not abstinence, we celebrate milestones of recovery instead of counting numbers such as days or years in the program. A milestone of recovery is a self-defined marker on our journey in recovery. It is essential to recognize that even on our worst days, we do things that are right and good and supportive of our recovery. Milestones, which take myriad and often surprising forms, are bright spots in our meetings that inspire us with their honesty and reality. We find, often in retrospect, that our milestones express how we are working the principles of the program in our lives. That is from the brochure, Recovery Milestones and Balance in EDA. Thank you.
And I'd like to ask if anybody would be willing to share a milestone at this time. If you're interested, please just use the raise hand function to let us know you wish to share. And let's try to limit this sharing to about 1 minute. All right, Allie, you're up.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. I'm Allie in recovery for my eating disorder. And my milestone is that I have attended meetings. I'm here at this meeting, and I exercised an average adequate amount. Thank you.
Congrats on your milestone. Thank you, Allie. Kathy G, you're up.
Thank you. Kathy G, recovered from an eating disorder in Colorado. My milestone is that I'm dealing with a little bit of a trauma, and well, it's a big trauma. And I have reached out to someone for assistance in dealing with that. And that feels good to not go it alone as I used to.
Yeah, congrats on your milestone, Kathy. Zara, would you like to share?
My milestone is that I'm in this workshop and I signed up, although I don't have a sponsor yet. And just being here gives me a wonderful feeling. And yeah, I'm very thankful to be here and for this workshop. Thank you.
Glad you're here. Congrats on your milestone, Zara. Gail, would you like to share one?
Okay, hi everybody, and thank you so much for this workshop. My name's Gail. I'm in recovery from an eating disorder, and my milestone is that I made it home from vacation in time yesterday to be here today. And I was away for 3 weeks traveling by myself with my dog all the way from Virginia to Maine and back, visiting all kinds of family and friends. And I kept up with a meeting every day and kept up with my recovery. So thanks for listening to my milestone.
Congrats on your milestone. Thanks for sharing, Gail. Stephanie, would you like to share?
Let's try. I just wanted to say again, thank you. And my milestone, there's been many since I found EDA, and I have a sponsor. So I am just very thrilled with that. And with that, I just go to different meetings, put out that you are needing a sponsor, and it will happen. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Stephanie. Awesome. And Beck, I think we can only take 6 people, and I'm just reading from the lists on my screen. So if you wouldn't mind, Beck, and then there'll be plenty of time for other people too to share afterwards.
Hello, my name is Beck. Thank you for being here today. I'm here. That's my milestone. I don't have a sponsor. And I'm just happy to be here.
Thanks, Beck. Thanks for sharing. Congrats on your milestone. Okay, so like I said, we'll have plenty of opportunities later in the meeting for other folks to share a milestone. Thank you so much to all of our sharers. Next, we will talk about the importance and priority of taking responsibility for meeting our own basic needs. So that's a key concept in EDA, and it's repeatedly mentioned in our literature. We build trust with ourselves when we take care of our basic needs. With this increase in trust, we're better prepared for the work required for recovery. Again, this is a foundational aspect of EDA recovery. And I have asked Leslie to please read the next 2 slides about taking care of basic needs.
Thank you. My name's Leslie and I suffer from an eating disorder. I'm in the UK. Taking care of basic needs. Eat when hungry, stop when moderately full. Consistent nutrition is essential for recovery. Recovery is about feelings, not food, but we can't reason or build trust when binging, purging, or starving. Get basic needs met first. If hungry, eat. If angry, find a safe outlet. If lonely, reach out. If tired, sleep. If ashamed, talk about it. Ask others for input, then make your own decisions. When anxious or troubled, do something that focuses attention on your physical senses. Get outside, pray, or meditate. Then deal with the problem head on. Get open with others. Honesty restores integrity. Develop willingness to look at things differently. Recovery is not rigid. Go to 12-step meetings, read the literature, and work the steps with a sponsor. Be proactive and plan your recovery. From the EDA Big Book Preface, pages 15 to 16 in Roman numerals. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. So next, we'll talk about another major component of our program of recovery, balance. There's an entire appendix in the book, Eating Disorders Anonymous, devoted to balance. It is Appendix B, so you can't forget it, balance. There's also a great brochure on the EDA website titled Milestones and Balance. And I've asked Elizabeth to please read the next 2 slides for us.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth in St. Augustine, Florida, recovered from an eating disorder. Balance. In EDA, our aim is balance, a balanced perspective and a balanced life. We are comfortable with the knowledge that our ideas will grow and expand as we go through life. We strive for progress, not perfection. We find it helpful to think of balance like the legs of a chair. We need to maintain strength and stability in 4 areas of life to stay in balance. Physical, which is nutrition, sleep, and exercise, using our bodies to connect to joy, like sunsets, hugging, and music. Next is mental and intellectual, such as stimulating challenging work and being of service. Third is emotional and social, building strong relationships, developing healthy levels of trust and engagement. And the 4th leg of the chair, spiritual and purpose-oriented, relying on a higher power or a higher purpose or both to gain humility and perspective. So about balance, when any one of these legs becomes weak, we are at risk of losing our balance. Balance is different for each person, but we know we're in balance when we are free from obsession with food, weight, exercise, and body image. This is from the brochure, Recovery, Milestones, and Balance in EDA. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And I've asked Nan to please read the next slide, which answers the question, what does EDA not do?
Hi, Nan, recovering from my eating disorder. What does EDA not do? In EDA, we focus on the solution, not the problem. We are not a diet and calories club. EDA endorses sound nutrition and discourages any form of rigidity around food. Food is nourishment for mind, body, and soul. In meetings, we discuss our disordered thinking so that we might also discuss how to work a solution. Diets and weight management techniques do not solve our thinking problem. Because of our competitive natures, we discourage any mention of numbers, weight, calories, time spent exercising, etc. From brochure, Could You Be One of Us?
So I will now read the long version of step 1, which is found in Appendix A of our book. And we'll put it up on the slide right now. So step 1, we admitted we were powerless over our eating disorders, that our lives had become unmanageable. We finally had to admit that what we were doing wasn't working. And I'll ask everyone, please get your EDA Big Book if you have it, or the PDF version, either one. And we can turn to page 115. Okay, and we're going to study step 1 together directly out of the book. This is to give you an idea of what an EDA literature step study meeting is like. And I'll call on participants who volunteered earlier. And when I call on you, please accept the unmute request and read 1 paragraph. And then if after you read, you can share for up to 2 minutes, or you can feel free to pass, whichever you prefer. So Sharon, would you please read the first paragraph on page 115, which begins with the words "before recovery"?
I'm Sharon. I have an eating disorder. Before recovery, we could not stop acting out in ways we knew caused harm. We were miserable. Even when aware that there might be a way to get and stay better, we were stricken with the same mental blank spots. As people suffering from alcoholism, we persisted in repeating the same behaviours, even though what we were doing was irrational, considering the possible physical and mental consequences. We remained ill despite our best efforts and the effort of others who wanted to help us. Sharing on that, yes, I keep doing the same things that cause me issues. I'm binging nonstop and I feel horrendous after it, guilt, disgust with myself. And I'm powerless over that. I just do it day in, day out. Vow each morning that I will not do it, but I do. So, pass.
Thanks for sharing, Sharon. Okay, and Suzanne, please read the last paragraph of page 115, which begins with the words, "Yet we think."
Yet we think it normal for people with eating disorders to take issue with the idea of powerlessness. Most of us have the same difficulty. The key point is not about being powerless in the overall context of our lives, but about having insufficient power to overcome our eating disorders specifically. Everything we tried up to the point where we considered taking this important first step had obviously failed, or we wouldn't have gotten to this juncture at all.
Thanks, Suzanne. And would you like to share for a couple minutes, or feel free to pass, whichever?
Sure, yeah, I can relate to that. I can relate to, with my eating disorder, having insufficient power to overcome it, and needing to rely on God to be able to help me in that area. So yes, being able to admit the powerlessness, definitely I can relate with that. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Suzanne. And Leanne, would you please read the first full paragraph on page 116, which begins with the words, "There is a reason."
Yes, my name's Leanne. I'm in North Carolina. I have an eating disorder. There's a reason why the founders of AA chose the word powerless for step 1. The whole point of the 12 steps is to enable the person who takes them to find the power to recover. If the first step had said helpless or insufficient instead of powerless, then the second step, which is all about finding one's own hope, strength, and power to change, would not have made as much sense. And I will share a little bit. Yeah, I appreciate that this part of the big book is making a distinction between exactly what I'm powerless over and what I'm not. And it doesn't need to be this disempowering thing, like I have no agency in my life. It's just that at the beginning of my recovery journey, I'm not able to do this. And then it makes me feel really hopeful that the 12 steps will give me the power to recover from these issues that I'm having. And with that, I pass.
Thanks so much, Leanne. Okay, Louise, would you please read the second full paragraph on page 116, which begins with the words, "Perhaps you are also struggling." And then I'll also ask you to read the following 2 bullets.
Thank you. Perhaps you are also struggling with the second clause of step 1, that our lives have become unmanageable. Most likely, your life appears fairly manageable on the surface. A lot of things might be going smoothly. That was the case for most of us. But let us explore a bit further. Do you use your eating disorder to help you manage your emotional states in one way or another, so your life feels more manageable? Do you feel completely safe within yourself, able to rely on yourself to do all that is required of you without having to resort to behaviors that you know cause harm? Wow, this is a very important paragraph for me because yes, I use my eating disorders all the time to manage my emotional states. Mostly to numb my emotional states. And I did not feel safe within myself to do what I had to do without resorting to behaviors. I could not stop. I heard earlier, despite my best intentions, I would find myself acting out in those same behaviors again later on during the day, or during the, in it, sometimes not a 24-hour period, but constantly using the behaviors to feel safer. Thank you.
Thanks, Louise. And Donna, I will ask you to read again the last paragraph on page 116, which begins with reflecting on these questions.
Reflecting on these questions makes clear that the two clauses of step 1 are actually parallel. If you have an eating disorder that you cannot control, by definition, that part of your life, which will doubtless be a central part of your life, is not manageable, at least not by you. Step 1 is an admission of defeat. Despite our best efforts, we could not recover on our own. This is all that is required to make a solid beginning. Thank you. Pass.
Thanks, Donna. Okay, Leslie, would you please read the following two paragraphs on the top of page 117, beginning with the remaining steps?
The remaining steps outline techniques to help you let go of old ideas that did not work and lay a solid foundation of ideas that do. Then you will be given directions for building on the foundation you have put in place. You are in charge of all of that, and you are not going to be asked to build on anything that you cannot trust. Steps 2 through to 12 are all about finding the power to gain and then retain the sanity that enables you to lead a happy and purposeful life. If you are reading this, you have probably already admitted you are powerless over your eating disorder and are willing to try almost anything that sounds reasonable in order to recover. You are ready to move to step 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Okay, at this time, how about we take a 2-minute break? I'll start my timer and I'll see you in 2. Okay, awesome. So we're now going to take a look at the 5 questions that were previously sent to you. And this is number 7 on your handout. If you are seeing them for the first time, don't worry, just relax and enjoy listening. For this first workshop, we asked ahead of time for some EDA members to submit their answers to these questions. So those who are here today will read their answers, and Bev has volunteered to, and actually Melissa has volunteered to read for those who were unable to be here today. So Bev W and Erin S have volunteered to answer question number 1. What methods have you tried to control your eating, body, and weight? Take it away, Bev.
Hi, I'm Bev from North Dakota. I'm recovering from an eating disorder. And over the years, I've spent way too much time and money on diets and meal plans that never worked for me. I tried programs backed by science, diets claiming to have worked for millions of people, and balanced meal plans with coaching and meals prepared to guarantee weight loss. I tried eating fat-free, vegetarian, and keto, and none of them worked. Well, they worked briefly. I would lose weight and then gain it all back and then some. I've always loved to swim and ride my bike and walk. And once I started to exercise to control my weight, this all changed. I no longer exercised for fun. I no longer swam because I loved how I felt moving in water, or biked and hiked because I loved to be outside and in nature. I exercised to change my body, and it did not work for me. It only became another aspect of my eating disorder. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Bev. Erin, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Erin in recovery from an eating disorder.
I have tried therapy, seeing nutritionists, ordering meals from a food service, having someone else prepare my food, attending a 12-step program for overeaters, treatment facilities, dieting, purging, and exercising quite a bit. I've run multiple marathons and ultra marathons. I later in life began restricting and developed anorexia. I would restrict throughout the day, exercise excessively, and then allow myself a high volume, low calorie meal in the evening. At the 12-step program for overeating that I initially found when entering the rooms of recovery, I read literature telling me not to take the first compulsive bite. I heard members talking about losing weight, which left me feeling quite confused and very misguided. All of my commitments were forgotten, broken, or they just did not work. Thank you.
Thanks, Erin. Thanks for sharing. And Bev and Erin have also volunteered to answer question number 2. So, how has your eating disorder made your life unmanageable? Examples could be guilt or obsession about food, weight, exercise, body image, canceling plans, eating rituals, restricting, stealing, sneaking, or hoarding food, or many other things. So, Bev, take it away.
Okay. I've spent 30 years of my life trying to manage my eating and my weight. Daily, I would obsess over what I was going to eat, when I would eat it, and how much I would eat, and how I would burn the calories I ate. I obsessed about my weight, my size, finding clothes to hide my size, and how I could possibly change my size. I spent hours researching diets for the right eating plan, studying it, and then implementing it. I spent a small fortune on commercial meal plans, diet club memberships, and nasty diet food I would eventually throw away. I've lied about the food I ate. I've hidden food. I've not been honest with my husband and have lived with the guilt of lying to him. I've missed out on important events in my life because of my eating disorder. I miss school reunions and weddings and family reunions and get-togethers with friends because I was unhappy with how I looked. I've gone out to eat or attended events while on one of my many diets and panicked about not having the right food there for me to eat. I've also missed events because I had fears about food being served. Thank you.
Thanks. And Erin.
Hi, everybody. Still Erin, still in recovery from an eating disorder. My eating disorder has caused pain and chaos in my life. I had this false notion of being in control and a drive to manage all aspects of my life in my anorexia. The reality is that my eating disorder had control. My life was painful and I was spiritually bankrupt. I obsessed about whether I exercised or didn't exercise. I obsessed about what I would or would not allow myself to eat. I'd manipulate food when ordering or making meals so that it was volumelessness, yet tasteless. I was often injured due to my excessive exercise and nutritional deficiencies. I was insecure and afraid when going out in public. I worried what others thought about me as I was sick and skeletal.
Thanks, Erin. Okay. Rachel A. and Mary Ellen C. have volunteered to answer question number 3. Do you often feel unhappy, upset, or panicked about your eating, weight, and or body?
This is Rachel A. from Toronto, recovering from an eating disorder. Before I came to EDA, every single day, my thoughts about my eating, weight, and body terrified me. I felt particularly frightened when I couldn't stop eating and kept going for more. I felt terror when I gained weight and felt great when I lost. If my belly seemed large, I felt depressed. I despaired and thought I was worthless. If my belly seemed smaller, I felt elated. My mood swings definitely related to my weight and thoughts about my body. When I felt good about my body, I decided I looked amazing and wanted to be sexual. When I was unhappy with my body, I wanted to isolate, punish myself, and restrict. I was constantly checking the scale and mirrors and feeling distressed when I didn't like what I saw. Pass.
Thanks, Rachel. And Melissa has volunteered to read for Mary Ellen, who couldn't make it today.
Hi, my name's Melissa, and I'm reading on behalf of Mary Ellen in Ohio. Before recovery in EDA, I had been in 2 different abstinence-based programs for many years. I described myself as a food addict, so therefore I could not eat anything with specific elements. I don't want to describe them here, but I was told to stay away from those certain food things. And I believed these were my addiction foods. I had to carefully weigh and measure 3 meals. I didn't trust myself around food, and I panicked if there were any of my binge foods in the house. I even bought a safe with a lock and key for our pantry and made my family lock up their foods that had these specific food items so I wouldn't see them. I would have weeks or sometimes months of abstinence from these foods and then have one bite of something off my food plan and immediately start binging. I felt so much shame and hated myself when I would gain back the weight. The cycle was exhausting, and I did it for decades. For as long as I can remember, I was upset and obsessed about my body and weight. I used to compare myself to everyone, and I never felt good enough. It took me forever to get dressed. I would try on several outfits before leaving the house. I canceled plans if my clothing was too tight. I never wanted to be photographed, so I have only a couple of pictures of myself with our son when he was young. I was never happy or present for others, just concerned with how I looked and what you thought of me. Pass.
Thanks, Melissa and Mary Ellen and Rachel. Okay, next up, Madison F. and Michelle R. have volunteered to answer question number 4, which I will read again. Are you at times powerless to stop or start eating even when you really want to? Do you often eat so much or so little that it affects your plans for the day?
Hi, this is Madison, recovering from an eating disorder in Arizona. Before my recovery began, I felt a compulsive need to restrict. Even when I cried, thinking about how badly I wanted to eat, I simply could not. Even after I started becoming less pleased with my very thin body, I continued restricting, despite my desire to start eating. I continued tricking myself into thinking I wasn't restricting. I watched an eating disorder consume my older sister, and yet I was blind to its hold on me. For many years, much of my thinking was focused on 2 things: numbers and competition. When someone mentioned a food, a series of numbers would pop into my head. I knew the nutritional content and calories of most foods. And the mirror? I was in competition with my mirror. I challenged my reflection, telling her I could beat her number on the scale. I could get to a lower number. And I was proud. There was a warped sense of pride at how I was destroying myself. But I could not see it. I picked apart my body and my food and determined my value as a person based on if I beat the mirror and/or scale that day. My days were consumed with this type of thinking. There is something deeply terrifying about watching yourself act while everything in your head and soul pushes back. Recovery gives me the tools to push back against my eating disorder when it tries to again possess me. I'm restored to being a woman with dignity and a person of free will. Pass.
Thanks, Madison. And Michelle R., are you here?
When I am binging, I feel as if an alien has taken over my body and mind and soul. Sometimes I can almost watch myself do this, but I still can't stop the binging. It's as if I am pulled by a powerful magnet to certain foods. I have no ability to stop myself. In the middle of the night, my eating disorder really resembles an animal in the aggressiveness of the eating. And even though I can almost watch myself, again, I cannot stop. Every binge feels as if I am shaming and abusing and neglecting myself without being able to stop. When I am starving, I feel numb and isolated from everyone. The roller coaster is wasting my life.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, we got 2 more anonymous people who couldn't make it today or either chose not to name themselves for question number 5, which is, Do you think you might have a problem with eating and or weight control that's not mentioned above?
Hi, this is Melissa. I'm reading on behalf of Anonymous. My eating disorder behaviors severely impacted my spiritual life. I left a church I enjoyed because I could not control my binging at their frequent social events and binged afterwards as well. Then I found a Buddhist Sangha that I enjoyed, but found that the same ED behaviors followed me. I would binge and then fall asleep during the services. I found myself again binging on the way home from services, leaving me feeling depressed and that I'd wasted my time. I would binge during spiritual events, which involved food, and I would sneak eat a great deal of the ceremonial refreshments. More shame. I would eat so much at night that I felt terrible in the morning and unable to do my meditation practice. I stopped attending my Sangha because I could not quiet my mind or feel a part of the experience, and I felt as if I did not fit in with the others. I have recently rejoined my Buddhist Sangha, and I am reconnecting with my spiritual family. Pass.
Thank you, Melissa. Thanks.
I am reading for Anonymous. In addition to obsessing, I'm Regina, reading for Anonymous, and I'm grateful because this is, I think, common. In addition to obsessing about food and weight and engaging in behaviors, I also have a problem with night eating. This includes not only eating significant amounts of food after dinner, but also waking up in the middle of the night to eat or binge. These episodes are usually followed by the inevitable feelings of depression and loss of appetite in the morning. Pass.
Thanks, Regina. To review, step 1 states that we admitted we were powerless over our eating disorders that have become unmanageable. We finally had to admit that what we were doing wasn't working. I'd like to ask you now to please raise your hand if you think you've taken step 1. Congratulations if you have taken step 1. If you've admitted you're powerless over your eating disorder and that your life has become unmanageable, you're ready to move on to step 2, which we'll focus on next week. If you're still unsure, don't worry. Go to lots of meetings, make outreach calls, and keep coming back. Okay, at this point, we're gonna talk about the homework. So we've tried to minimize the homework, but obviously if you do it, you'll have a different experience than if you don't do it. So I'm just gonna read it right from the screen. So referring to the 4-legged chair, the first question asks to write about your current state of balance or imbalance in these 4 areas of your life: physical, mental, intellectual, emotional, social, and spiritual or purpose-oriented. Please be sure to note areas where you do feel balanced, as well as those where you would like more balance. I like to write like 2 different lists. Number 2, study the chapter Doctor's Opinions in the EDA Big Book, pages, I don't really know Roman numerals, XIX to XXX, and mark or select some passages or quotes that especially resonate with you. Number 3, write about the 5 questions in number 7 of the handout, if you haven't already done that. Question 4, throughout the workshop and throughout recovery, peer support is one of your most important resources. So call at least one person from this workshop or the EDA fellowship at large between now and the next session and share from your writing or any of the passages from the readings that stood out to you. And then number 5, attend as many EDA meetings as you can. So to wrap up, taking care of basic needs is a concept repeated frequently in EDA literature. Take some time this week and listen to your inner wisdom and begin or continue to prioritize taking care of your own basic needs. Also aim to focus on what you're doing right. Celebrate and share your milestones. So we can stop the slides and I'll ask our lovely workshop chair, Regina, to please facilitate the next section of our workshop.
In this part of the workshop, everyone is encouraged to ask questions, claim milestones, and share. I'm sorry you all didn't get to in your breakout rooms. We are going to have to work on that technical detail. Please raise your digital hand if you wish to speak. And limit your share to 2 minutes to allow as many participants as possible to share. Our timer will offer a gentle reminder if you go over. And I will attempt to call on hands, beginning with Esther.
Hi, I am Esther and I'm from New Jersey and I'm in recovery from an eating disorder. I want to reflect on page 116 where it talks about how life is unmanageable and how it might seem manageable on the surface. And I want to reflect a little bit on that. So I wrote, my life does not currently feel manageable when thinking about my eating disorder and my obsessive compulsive disorder. My eating disorder actually, to a certain extent, is not working for me, though it has in the past. And I think that is why I returned to these behaviors.
Thank you, Esther. Audrey.
Oh. This is hysterical. Okay, so this is what I wanted to say. I wanted to say that like my inside spirit woman is just really rejoicing and so excited and full on and everything. However, I'm very, very mindful to know that this is the first step of a journey of 10,000 miles. In other words, I'm trying to calm down and say, not get too excited and not get too fired up and, you know, all that stuff. Because guess what? After the meeting, the rubber hits the road, and at least for me. And so that's why I'm trying to be, how can I say this? Like, I just want to take baby steps. I don't want to rush this thing along because Rome was not built in a day. It wasn't. So that's my share. Thank you.
Yeah. And our eating disorders didn't develop overnight. And I wish it wasn't a process. I wish it was an event, not a process. But here we all are doing it together. Melissa B.
Oh dear, I didn't realize I had my hand up. I really didn't mean to do that. I will yield the time to somebody else, but I'm very glad to be here. Step one is a toughie. Step one is where we greet ourselves in the mirror and say, oh, there's so much work to do, but it gets better. And I just want to encourage everybody to keep coming back because I have found a life I never knew possible because of these rooms and because of the steps. Thank you.
Thank you. Anna Gloria.
Hi, this is Anna recovering from an eating disorder. It's very happy to be here and also to see some familiar faces and all the others. Very, very nice to see you all. I kind of had a little bit of, for me, a light bulb moment while we were sharing and especially answering the questions. The first question, I was looking at my list. And it's not just bad things. What did I do in my life to control my, well, what did I do around food? And yeah, of course, there was the starving, the purging, the laxative, the drugs, the over-exercise, the overwork, the abstinence-based programs. But there was also the meditation, the self-help books, the therapy, the trying to focus on others and service and love. And so it's funny because it's funny to me because my motives, not always the techniques were bad. Some of them were good. It's just my motives were wrong. I was doing all these things because I wanted to lose the weight. I wanted to look a different way. First of all, I wanted something from myself. So it was all about control. And second, I wanted to control this instead of understanding. And this is something I've understood in EDA specifically, that this is just a projection of my journey within myself and in the world. And another thing that I wanted to say is that it's not that I'm here because nothing else worked. I'm here because everything works exactly the way it needed to work. Because I'm here now.
Gentle
Thank
reminder,
you.
Aunt Gloria.
Oh, just perfect. Thank you so much. Sarah M.
Hi, thanks very much for having the workshop. My name is Sarah. I'm in eating disorder recovery in Cork, Ireland. I'm going to put my hand on my heart for a second just so I can talk because I get very nervous. When I was looking at step one, when we were reading it there, you know, the first thing about it being insufficient power over our eating disorders rather than powerlessness, because the powerlessness, I'm definitely one of the people that wouldn't have worked for if I hadn't read into it, because I'm like, I'm not powerless. I have control over my own destiny, you know, and that's where the higher power and the higher purpose, I'm trying to get a more of a fix on that as well. What works for me, you know, because I was in another food fellowship as well, and the higher power was kind of more rammed down me, and I kind of went against it, and it kind of, you know, but yeah, what's happening at the moment is my eating disorder, I think, is putting up a lot of resistance because I'm not acting out hugely in behaviors, but it's my body image. My body image is very distorted. So when I read the questions and it's talking about all the different behaviors, I'm like, yeah, but I haven't done them for a while, so maybe I don't have an eating disorder. But I know that's not true because it's my thoughts. It's how I think, you know, it's feelings, not food. And I just have to keep saying that to myself, you know. And the sleep as well, you know, that's where when it says safe within yourself, going to rest and to sleep and oversleeping, that's when I numb myself with as well. It's not just food, you know. At the moment, the food isn't up that high. It's the numbing myself with other things, negative thoughts, paranoia, you know, other behaviors, constant worry, being constantly vigilant, self-doubt, criticism. But I just wanted to say that it says on question 5 about other things, and I know we talked about night eating. I would have had that for a while as well, but with me, it's minerals. It's things like fizzy drinks, juices, coffees, milky coffees, that kind of thing. I use them more than food at the moment. So that's kind of a sneaky way that the eating disorder gets in as well, I think, because
Sarah, gentle reminder.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'll finish up on that. It's the body image really as well. And I just related to a lot of what the other people said about being afraid what people think of you walking down the street, nearly how you look. So thanks very much. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you very much. I like I want to just point out the point that the mental obsession can be the eating disorder. And Ed, you're the host. If you want to turn the chat on so people can chat, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go for 5 more minutes, and then we're going to officially close the meeting, and then we're going to have a wonderful after meeting where those who can stay will continue to share, but won't be recorded. Carrie C.
My name is Carrie C., and I'm in Boise, Idaho. And I am at the very beginning of this journey. I've just realized that, oh, I have an eating disorder. As I went through some of these questions today, it was really interesting. You know, it was so funny because you don't really want to think that your life is unmanageable. But then I sit here and I made like a 2-page list of all of the ways that eating, body image has affected my life. And it was really humbling to sit and write all those words out on paper and look at them, and you know, made me realize that yes, I do have a problem. So it was very encouraging and exciting to hear people who have been in recovery for a while and who are seeking recovery. All of you have lots of wonderful insights and things. So thank you very much for having this workshop and sharing. And with that, I will pass.
Thank you. We are going to have Isabel. Isabel, you still with us? Can you close us out?
Yes, thank you, Regina. Happy to. Isabel, eating disordered. Okay, volunteers are selected prior to the start of each workshop. Next week, please consider joining us 10 to 15 minutes prior to the start of the workshop if you'd like to volunteer. As an anonymity reminder, please don't share who you've seen here or what others have shared here.
Recording in progress.
Oops. Okay, and also, it sounds like we have some feedback. Donna's on it. Okay. And we have no dues or fees, and this workshop is offered at no cost. However, EDA has expenses and contributions are welcome. So we hope you'll consider a minimum contribution of $1 per week, $14 for the 14-week workshop. Like Regina said, it all goes to EDA as a whole. So you could go to the EDA website and select the support tab if you'd like to contribute. Okay, so to wrap up, if you wish to, please join me in saying the Weave version of the Serenity Prayer. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
We hope you enjoyed today's workshop. More information about Eating Disorders Anonymous can be found at 4eda.org, the number 4eda.org. The handouts for this workshop can be found at edahopeforrecovery.com. We encourage you to check out one or more of the many EDA Zoom or in-person meetings. Many of us have found recovery from our eating disorders in these meetings and hope that you will too. Until next time.